Donald Trump's picks for Attorney General and Secretary of State get a grilling as confirmation hearings continue on Capitol Hill. In his final address, U.S. President Barack Obama urges Americans to unite and defend their democracy. And one tech giant's quest to teach everyone the universal language of coding. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is holding his first news conference in nearly 6 months Wednesday, and he's facing questions about U.S. intelligence allegations that Russia interfered in the election he won in November and how he plans to address potential conflicts of interest involving his business. Well, you are looking at live pictures right now of the press conference at Trump Tower in New York. Mr. Trump's last news conference came in late July when he began his remarks by lambasting his Democratic challenger Hillary Clinton for going months without speaking to the press. Most modern U.S. presidents have given a news conference within a few days of winning the election. And while Trump has been active on Twitter and made brief statements during his process of preparing to take office January 20th, he has not formally met with a group of reporters to take questions.
That's a horrible thing.
Now, President-elect Donald Trump's Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson is on Capitol Hill Wednesday, addressing relations with Russia during his Senate confirmation hearing. In an opening statement released by the Trump transition team, Tillerson told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that NATO is right to be alarmed at the resurgence of Russia and to say that open and frank dialogue with Russia regarding its ambition is needed so the United States can plan its course. Tillerson stepped down recently as chief executive officer of energy giant ExxonMobil, where he worked for over 40 years. His massive oil deals with Russia could complicate his confirmation in the Senate, where several key lawmakers say they are troubled by his close ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin. On Tuesday, President-elect Trump's pick-to-be Attorney General told his colleagues that as a Southerner, he saw racial discrimination and he knows it's wrong. Senator Jeff Sessions, who was once denied a federal judgeship over allegations of a racist past, was grilled by senators on his conservative views, some of which conflict with established law or the policies of the outgoing Obama administration. VOA's Michael Bowman reports.
You know who I am. You know what I believe in.
Senators are considering one of their own as America's top law enforcement officer. Jeff Sessions, who campaigned vigorously for Donald Trump, would be duty-bound to provide him with independent legal analysis.
Will you be able to stand up and say no to the President of the United States if, in your judgment, the law and your duty demands it?
You simply have to help the president do things that he might desire in a lawful way and have to be able to say no, both for the country, for the legal system, and for the president.
Sessions reaffirmed his opposition to abortion, but said he recognizes and respects that U.S. law permits it. He gave a similar answer on gay marriage.
Do you agree that the issue of same-sex marriage is settled law?
Supreme Court has ruled on that, and I will follow that decision.
Periodically interrupted by protesters, Sessions was asked about Donald Trump's campaign promises.
The president-elect has repeatedly asserted his intention to institute a ban on Muslim immigrants to the United States.
I have no belief and do not support the idea that Muslims as a religious group should be denied admission to the United States.
Trump has promised to end illegal immigration to the United States and to reverse President Barack Obama's executive orders shielding millions of undocumented people from deportation. Sessions sees nothing wrong with either pledge.
I do believe that if you can continually go through a cycle of amnesty, that you undermine the respect for the law and encourage more illegal immigration into America. I believe the American people spoke clearly in this election.
Civil rights groups are protesting Sessions, saying he is unfit to be Attorney General.
His policies and his positions have been the antithesis and contemptuous of the very values of our Constitution.
Others come to his defense.
Senator Sessions is not a racist. Sessions helped desegregate schools in Alabama, a huge issue. Also, he got the death penalty for a KKK murderer.
People have fairly promptly tried to label you as a racist or a bigot or whatever you want to say. How does that make you feel?
I am totally committed to maintaining the freedom and equality that this country has to provide to every citizen.
Prominent African-American lawmakers are expected to testify against Sessions later this week as hearings continue. Michael Bowman, VOA News, the Capitol.
U.S. President Barack Obama delivered his farewell address to the nation on Tuesday night. The president used the speech to highlight his administration's achievements during the past 8 years and to warn about the risks to American democracy from divisiveness and political animosity. VOA's Richard Green has more on the final speech of a historic presidency.
President Barack Obama was greeted by a large and enthusiastic crowd in his adopted hometown of Chicago, where his political career began more than 2 decades ago.
It's good to be home.
The president said the United States is a better, stronger place than when he took office in 2009.
If I had told you 8 years ago that America would reverse a Great Recession, reboot our auto industry, and unleash the longest stretch of job creation in our history, if I had told you that we would open up a new chapter with the Cuban people, shut down Iran's nuclear weapons program without firing a shot, take out the mastermind of 9/11. If I had told you that we would win marriage equality and secure the right to health insurance for another 20 million of our fellow citizens, if I had told you all that, you might have said our sights were set a little too high.
Acknowledging the current political divide in the country, Obama urged Americans to seek common ground with one another, saying that while democracy does not require uniformity, it does require a basic sense of solidarity. The president warned that the United States faces a series of threats to democracy, such as the nagging issues of economic and racial inequality.
If every economic issue is framed as a struggle between a hardworking white middle class and an undeserving minority, then workers of all shades are going to be left fighting for scraps while the wealthy withdraw further into their private enclaves.
But Obama said he was more optimistic about America now than when he took office, and called on citizens to remain engaged in the democratic process.
I'm asking you to hold fast to that faith written into our founding documents, that idea whispered by slaves and abolitionists, that spirit sung by immigrants and homesteaders and those who marched for justice, that creed reaffirmed by those who planted flags from foreign battlefields to the surface of the moon. A creed at the core of every American whose story is not yet written. Yes, we can. Yes, we did. Yes, we can.
Richard Green, VOA News, Washington.
Well, a U.S. federal jury on Tuesday sentenced to death the killer of 9 people in a historically black South Carolina church. 22-year-old Dylan Roof, a self-proclaimed white supremacist, was found guilty last month of massacring African-American worshippers in 2015 at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston. The panel of 10 women and 2 men reached a decision after about 3 hours of deliberations to impose the death penalty. They had to reach a unanimous decision. Roof was convicted of 33 criminal counts, including federal hate crimes, making him eligible for the death penalty. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered during the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out all headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, why Microsoft thinks you should learn a new language, coding. Well, stay with us.
Like Voice of America on Facebook. Follow VOA on Twitter. Join VOA on our YouTube channel. Like, follow, join VOA.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Welcome back. In East Africa, thousands of Kenyan doctors remain on strike and risk being fired because they did not return to work on Wednesday. On Tuesday, the country's Employment and Labor Relations Court issued arrest warrants against 7 officials with the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union. The walkout by doctors and nurses on December 5th has devastated the country's public health service, where few can afford private care. The medics have rejected a 40% pay rise offer from the government, demanding the full implementation of a 2013 collective bargaining agreement, which assured them a 300% raise and other improved conditions. Peter Munya, the chairman of the nation's Council of Governors, says the doctors will be issued dismissal letters. In the latest twist in Gambia's post-election crisis, the country's Supreme Court postponed President Yahya Jammeh's legal challenge to his election defeat on Tuesday after judges from Nigeria and Sierra Leone failed to show up. Chief Justice Emmanuel Fagbenle adjourned the hearing until January the 16th. Meanwhile, a mediation mission by West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS to Gambia has been pushed back from Wednesday to Friday. An ECOWAS delegation led by Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf visited Gambia in December but failed to persuade Jammeh to step down. ECOWAS has said it will take all necessary steps to uphold the result of the election. For more insight on the situation in Gambia, I'm joined in studio by Mohammed Ka. He's an analyst on Gambian issues. Mr. Ka, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Vincent.
First, what do you make of this postponement? Everybody was looking forward to know what the ECOWAS leaders are going to tell President Jammeh. Are you hearing anything that maybe...
This is what's going on. What happened, he wanted the Supreme Court to hear his case first, but the problem is Jammeh is so arrogant, he's been firing judges left and right. At the moment, we don't have no Supreme Court. 4 judges are in Nigeria, and 1 in Sierra Leone. And the only time they're available to come to Gambia is going to be in May. But the problem is we have an inauguration in 6 days. So there's nothing that could be done.
From what you understand, if he thinks that the case should be heard later on, or perhaps, is he waiting for that inauguration? Is he making arrangements to extend his stay, or is he assuming that he's going to have an inauguration for himself on the 19th of January, just a few days from now?
He has told some of his supporters to be ready for an inauguration of himself.
Yes.
And they were going around, making clothes and this thing we call asabi. But Jammeh represents the last dying breed of African dictators. The whole West Africa is cleaning itself, like Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, and all that kind of stuff. He has turned the Gambia into a police state. Like 3 years ago when I was going to Gambia, a friend of mine reached out to me. It's like, hey, Mohammed, don't go. They got your name on the list. I said, a list for what? He said, the only thing I'm telling you, don't go. So I have a friend that worked for the police department that reached out to me and told me the same thing. So I went. They tracked me down, and I was, in detention for a few hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear about that. This is the other scenario. The ECOWAS leaders have said they will make sure he's out by the 19th. And if he doesn't get out, they will send in troops. They have said they put on alert troops from Senegal. Do you see a scenario where ECOWAS forces will actually go in and take him out?
They are talking about that as being the last resort, if every other option fails. Vincent, it breaks my heart when I look online and see for the first time ever, the Gambians are refugees in another country. We have the ferry that connects the city to the North Bank. Every time the ferry goes north, it's full with people.
Of refugees, people running away from their country.
Running away from the Gambia to go hide in Senegal.
Yeah.
And it's coming back empty. Because look, what's going to happen is ECOWAS is going to end up coming. So the problem is half of Jammeh's army is not going to fight for him.
So you kind of have information that not the entire military is standing behind him.
Yeah, great information. We all got like brothers and cousins in the army that we know. You know, they have wives and all that in the military. And half of the Gambian army are overseas doing peacekeeping.
But do you think he has anything to lose? Well, given that he has already been threatened with being taken to ISIS, The Hague, does he have any motivation to leave power?
Well, this is what's going to happen. Let's say the Gambian government decide to say, look, we're not going to prosecute you, we're going to let you work, you can go do whatever. But that doesn't stop justice coming around. Because remember, he killed family members that are American citizens. Those people can come back to him legally. And there's nothing the Gambian government can do by then.
Now, before we end this, he has clearly said ECOWAS's pronouncements amount to a declaration of war against his country, and he will defend his country. Do you think he's just bluffing, or he's the kind of a guy who will defend his country against ECOWAS?
I think he's just bluffing. He's on TV telling his supporters Senegal is coming to colonize us. Senegal is coming for, let Senegal what it is about Senegal problem. No. Senegal is not coming for Gambia. Senegal is coming for you, my brother. So in order to save the day, we don't want you. We already voted for Barrow. That's the guy we want to lead us into our golden years. President Jawara has laid the foundation for us. You came and pretty much do nothing. Kidnapping and killing, and he owns every business in Gambia. Any business you can name, he owns it. Yeah. So Barrow is ready to lead for like 3 years, and then we run.
So we'll wait and see things play out in the coming days, and probably you'll come back and tell us a little more.
Oh, definitely.
Thanks a lot, Mohammed.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Vincent.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right.
Well, Mohammed Carr is an analyst on the Gambian issues and also a native of Gambia. Well, investments in Africa's transportation infrastructure with the inauguration of a new railway line linking the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, with Djibouti in October. Joining us with more details is Africa 54's business correspondent Jill Malandrino, reporting from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Hello, Jill.
A multi-billion-dollar China-built rail line linking the Horn of Africa with the continent's vast interior was officially launched on Tuesday, an important milestone for China's burgeoning influence in the region. Now, the 750-kilometer line connects port city Djibouti and Addis Ababa, the capital of landlocked Ethiopia. It's also one of the fastest-growing economies in Africa. The railway is expected to reduce the travel time between the two cities from 3 days by road to just 12 hours by train. It's the start of a trans-African railway project in which a 2,000-kilometer track will connect Djibouti, which is a gateway to the Suez Canal, one of the world's busiest shipping routes, with the Atlantic Ocean. As we have discussed, developments like this have triggered concerns that China's following in Western footsteps and pursuing a path of colonial economic development in Africa. But you cannot trade without infrastructure. So let's take a look at Ethiopia's economy. The devastating drought affected the harvest in most parts of the country in 2016. Going forward, more favorable weather conditions could reboot the damaged agricultural sector, and the new Addis Ababa-Djibouti railway line will significantly improve trade and ease logistical constraints.
This project is our lifeblood. The reason is because Ethiopia's outlet are through Djibouti. Therefore, this project determines if we live or not. It's a project of survival. That's how big this project is. Therefore, we see this project as a child we gave birth to. What you see here in this train is about 1,000 people, half of them from Djibouti and half of them Ethiopians. The people are intertwined together, and you cannot separate the two.
As it relates to Djibouti, the railway will support the development of Djibouti's international free trade zone, and that will help spur the nation's manufacturing industry and provide employment opportunities for its citizens. From the NASDAQ market site in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is Africa 54 Business News.
Well, computer coding is no longer an activity exclusive to programmers and software engineers. The universal language can unlock doors for both the young and old, rich and poor, and Microsoft is endeavoring to teach it to all who want to learn. VOA's Tina Train covers the tech giant's digital literacy efforts at home and abroad.
At the Microsoft store in New York City, a handful of students have gathered to learn a new language. A world away in Lagos, Nigeria, a different set of students are embarking on a similar journey.
Coding is a universal language. Coding is the language of solving problems.
Every website and mobile application we interact with is coded using various programming languages, the fundamentals of which can be taught to someone as young as 4.
It's very rare that a new literacy comes along in our lifetime, and it absolutely can be democratized.
To that end, Microsoft has partnered with nonprofit Code.org to offer free workshops and online tutorials. The company is also building on efforts abroad, partnering with 25 aspiring entrepreneurs in Lagos, Nigeria.
Many of our entrepreneurs aren't technical, but that doesn't mean they don't know what problems exist in Nigeria and they don't have a solution to fix it.
Among those solutions are startups like OneTrack, which aims to deter child kidnapping through mobile tracking. The cultural exchange was illuminating, even when it wasn't.
We were coding one night, we were working on prototypes, the lights go out. No one notices. They just keep typing. To them, it's a way of life.
A way of life that provided invaluable feedback.
One of the things that we are actively focusing on now is how can we have a better offline experience for our products. For us, it's about learning.
These lessons will ultimately guide the next generation of digital pioneers, whether they originate in New York or Nigeria. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Drones for Africa. Can they help the continent overcome its greatest challenge? We'll have more when we come back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In the Gambia, outgoing President Yahya Jammeh, who lost the election in December but has refused to accept the results, has issued a warning to foreign leaders not to interfere with his country's electoral process. In India, New Delhi announces a credit line of $100 million for agricultural mechanization to Kenya. In the Republic of Congo, President Denis Sassou Nguesso and the visiting Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi vowed to boost bilateral relations during their meeting in the capital, Brazzaville. Finally, as Gabon prepares to host the Africa Cup of Nations, their home team practiced Tuesday in Libreville. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Well, now, can drone technology help Africa overcome some of its biggest infrastructure and development problems? In some places in Africa, you need only to look up to the sky to see how drones are beginning to show their promise. Africa 54's Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick has more.
You'd be forgiven for thinking this sounds like a swarm of bees coming your way. But in rural Malawi, this is the sound of a drone delivering your medicine. Here, screening of HIV in babies requires special lab tests. Poor infrastructure and high travel costs mean it can take up to 2 months to get samples from rural health facilities to equipped labs. That delay often prevents people from accessing vital antiretroviral treatment. However, drone technology is helping to deliver urgent medical care while saving time, money, and in many cases, lives.
There are many delays in the continuum of getting HIV-positive children on treatment. They need to come in early for testing. ideally before 2 months, between 6 and 8 weeks. Their tests, the dried blood spots, need to get from the health facilities to one of the 8 laboratories nationwide.
In Cameroon, entrepreneur Mathieu Ongen saw an opportunity in the tourism market. He's now using drones to offer visitors to his country something new.
My use of drones is mainly to take images of different parts of the city. Of course, we also use it to highlight some of the best tourist sites, because seen from above, some of these sites have even a bigger impact on people.
This Kenyan university student built his own drone. He couldn't use it in his home country because Kenya's government restricts drone use. So Arnold Bett looked to neighboring Tanzania, where he was able to use his drone, called the Octocopter, for agricultural research. The Octocopter could identify 14 different varieties of sweet potatoes in the fields below through drone-based remote sensing. Bett says drone technology doesn't come cheap.
Buying a ready commercial drone is very expensive, and that will mostly range between $5,000 to $6,000. And for us, building one, the most probably it will cost us is about $1,000, but on average $500 to $1,000.
Loaded into the planes pass pre-flight checks.
Rwanda's poor infrastructure and mountainous landscape make it difficult to service rural health centers. So the government and US startup Zipline looked to the sky for a solution. They launched a delivery service that drops blood bags to 20 remote hospitals. The drones can make a round trip of 93 miles.
Blood is incredibly urgently needed, and this is a way of getting it to them 10 times faster than we've been able to get it to hospitals in the past.
As Africa gradually embraces drones, questions remain about whether the continent is ready for them, how much they will cost, and how they'll be regulated, even as many African countries are only just beginning to develop their drone policy. Heidi Adams-Fitzpatrick, VOA News, Washington.
Fascinating. And that's our show for today. Now, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC and in the mornings. Today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us in Washington. Have a good night.
Voice of America today is a window in which we have to see delivering the messages for contacting the people wherever they are. And Albanian people, as people of a small country, need to have such and deserve to have such information from the United States and from all around the world. So it's a bridge. Voice of America, it's a bridge between entire world and Albanian citizens.
I'm Vincent Makori from Africa 54. This is VOA. Follow us on Africa 54. Go to facebook.com/VOA Africa 54.